Hey guys, it's Chemical Gamer here, bringing you another moveset guide. We're gonna start with the Poison Legendary Trio from the new DLC pack. I really wanted to start with Fezandipiti out of all the new Pokemon, just because I think it's a really awkward Pokemon. It's got some really weird stats, just kind of like a weird move pool, and it's kind of confusing and not very straightforward as how to use this Pokemon. I will admit, I don't like the stat spread on new like Poison Legendaries. I think they're just kind of underwhelming overall. We can see it has a base stat total of 555, which is pretty low for a legendary, and it's just kind of all over the place, just kind of like spread around. So we can look at it right here. Only 88 on the hit points, 82 in the defense, and then the special defense at 125 is pretty solid. It's got an interestingly high speed stat for what seems to be more like a bulky Pokemon. And then the typing, Poison Fairy is also pretty good. You can see only 3 weaknesses and a lot of resists and immunities, which is really good. And then also with Terra, we can kind of get rid of those weaknesses too. We'll talk a little bit more about why the Ghost and Flying is going to be our best Terra types here once we get into the movesets. New abilities. So all 3 of these legendary Pokemon get this new ability called Toxic Chain. We'll talk a little bit more about what that does. But basically, all your moves, all your attacking moves have just a 1 in 3 chance to poison the target. But that's kind of underwhelming since 2 of the 3 Pokemon are just like sweeper or like more offensive attacking Pokemon. You don't really need that. Like the best I would do is bring a Pokemon down to Focus Sash and take them out at the end of the turn after they get a move off. I think that Fezandipiti out of the 3 actually makes the most use out of Toxic Chain in 1v1 setting. And then Technician, which can be a really good ability on some Pokemon, but with those offensive stats, a 91 in the physical attack and a 70 in the special attack, it's just really underwhelming. As far as moves go, all over the place. It is nice that we can Toxic Stall with Roost, and then that natural high speed is really solid, and that having a lot of speed as a bulky Pokemon can be really good. Just to make sure you're getting that Roost off before like maybe other bulky Pokemon that are trying to set up on you. You can just put a timer on it with the Toxic. I can Calm Mind set up, which is decent. Beat Up is really only there just because it's going to be consistent like 3 hitting move for the Toxic Chain, and we'll talk a little bit more about why that's going to be good. Sword Stance is going to be your best physical option to boost your moves. I think if you're going to run Technician, you want to go on the physical side, and that's where Sword Stance is going to come into play. Hex and Venoshock are both going to be nice if you can get a poison on them, and it's just going to do a little bit more damage since your special attack being at a measly 70 is just going to be pretty underwhelming. Getting that little extra damage boost is going to make it a little bit better for you, but again, it's not great. Air Slash is just going to be kind of nice if you get the poison on them, or let's say you're just throwing out an Air Slash if you get the outspeed. You might just find the poison with the Toxic Chain, so that could be nice. And just can be kind of an annoying move just to get a little bit of chip damage, and then keep roosting up to stay healthy. Moonblast is going to be a really solid stab option, but again, that base 70 special attack is just really underwhelming. Shadow Ball is just a nice coverage move. Tailwind and U-turn, so it can be kind of nice on a bulky Pokemon to set up Tailwind and then pivot out, and then also have some other options, and I think Fezandipiti actually does a pretty good job of that, and we'll talk about some synergies of Pokemon that I think can take really good advantage of the Tailwind even in a 3v3 setting. And Double Kick is really just to counter for those steel weaknesses, because being a Poison Fairy typing, we're really weak to steel types. Like King Gambit's going to be a huge threat to us unless we were teching into Double Kick, but that can be a nice way to just kind of catch the opponent off guard. And then Tail Slap, I don't really like Tail Slap. It's one of those moves that hits 2 to 5 times, and it's really only there if you're trying to do some cheese like with Toxic Chain, but it's pretty underwhelming again, and it's an 85% accurate move, so I just don't like messing around with that. It's not worth the risk for me. I'd rather just go for a pure Toxic if I'm going to Toxic Stall than try to rely on like the goofiness of doing a Tail Slap. So I think Fezandipiti does really good against Skeledirge, which has been a huge threat ever since the start of competitive in Scarlet and Violet. Skeledirge having that unaware ability makes it super annoying for like you cannot set up on it, I think. And it's just going to set up and snowball with Torch on and just get stronger. It's got access to so many tools. We've already talked about Skeledirge, how good he is. He's one of my favorite Pokemon to use. But Fezandipiti does really solid against it. Being able to get a Toxic up on there, getting that poison status is going to be super good, because it's just going to whittle it down. And you're able to stay relatively healthy. You have pretty good type matchup. You have some pretty good coverage moves too against it. Also does really, really good against Meowscarada, and my favorite moveset that we're going to talk about with Fezandipiti, you're pretty much going to want to run it as a lead. You see Meowscarada as a lead a lot of times when they go up against you. And even if Meowscarada try to like trick us, we can still make some good use with Fezandipiti's moveset, so that can be a decent matchup for us as well. Mimikyu is a Pokemon that's been incredibly annoying in Scarlet and Violet, the metagame, ever since people started really catching up onto it. I don't think it was used a whole lot in the very first battle season, and then the usage just kept continuing to go up, and it's pretty high up there right now. It does really, really well against Iron Valiant, which just has a lot of options. It has some really good coverage moves. We don't really see a lot of Iron Valiant right now, but it is definitely a Pokemon that you can't disrespect, and just having a good tight matchup against that's going to be good. And I put Asterisk next to Dragonite because it can be decent against Dragonite, especially if it's a more offensive Dragonite set. And if you're going Ghost Terra, which I think is better in most cases with Fezandipiti, if you have a natural outspeed on it, it's probably going to try to Dragon Dance first turn. And if you can outspeed and flinch it, which is a moveset we'll talk about in just a minute, that can be really good, getting that poison up on it. And then you're also breaking that multi-scale, and you can just kind of chip away at it before it can set up and hurt you. If you're going Terra Ghost, it's not going to be able to hit you with E-Speed, so you have a pretty good matchup against a lot of the Dragonite sets that you're going to run into. Now, originally I was going to say that Golden Go is going to be a huge threat for this Pokemon to deal with, especially since it's going to be really hard to status Golden Go. But we do actually have some movesets that can handle Golden Go a little bit better, and I think that that's going to be an option a lot of opponents are going to try to use against you. So depending on the set you're running with Fezandipiti, you might have a better matchup against it. Clodsire is just going to shut you down completely. Garganacl is just not going to take any status, so you're going to have a really hard time taking that down. And you just can't generate enough damage against the defensive stats with Garganacl. You see a lot of poison Terror type with Tainlu, just so you can't poison it, and then also being weak to that ground. A lot of Tainlu right now are running Earthquake. You're not going to be able to set up on it. A lot of them are running Whirlwind, so it's just not a good matchup for you there. Hisui and Grudra just has a really good type matchup against you. You're not going to be able to poison it with that steel typing. It's just a really bad matchup. Ursaluna almost always is going to be running Guts with like Flame Orb. And so not being able to poison it is not going to be good. And only being 88 in hit points and 82 in defense means that Ursaluna is just going to really not care. It's going to get off a facade and just take you out easy peasy. And then Iron Moth also has some really high natural special defense. It's just surprising amount of bulk, and it just has such a good type matchup. So it's really not a matchup you want to be going up against either. So let's go ahead and hop into Pokemon Showdown to see what this Pokemon can really do. All right, now this first moveset is my favorite moveset to run with Fezandipiti. And I haven't actually tried it on the ladder, but I just think that this utilizes the most amount of its tech, which seemingly seems just all over the place and is not very useful. So taking a look at its stat spread here, we're going full speed here. We want to outspeed everything that's going to be below 99 base speed. And you get a lot of interesting Pokemon right now. That means you're going to be faster than Mimikyu. It's going to mean you're faster than Urshifu. But it also is going to make you fast in like the base 90s, the high 80s, 85 that are going full speed, which is really, really nice. And it's a place you want to be. Being below the base 100 Pokemon, and there's a lot of them, is kind of unfortunate, but Scarlet and Violet's been a relatively slow metagame. So I think that's a pretty nice place to be. And I just put the rest of the defensive EVs into hit points here. Just to make you bulky on both sides. You're going to have really good matchups if you can find that special matchup. But if you find a physical threat too, you're at least going to be able to take some hits and survive against it. So the idea with this is you're going to go beat up first turn every time. This is going to be your lead Pokemon in a 3-3 match. And you're hoping to find the Toxic Chain Poison with a 3-hit move. I think it's like 71% is the odds to get a poison. So fairly high odds to get a poison. And then we just have the Keen's Rock on there to be silly. So every time that hits, it's going to have an independent chance to get a 10% flinch. So if you can find a flinch, also get some chip damage, and land the poison on them, that's going to be incredibly frustrating for your opponent. And then you can just kind of go there and whittle them down with Venoshock and Hex if you find that poison on them. And then just stay healthy with Roost. So the idea is just you're going up against Pokemon that's not going to be able to set up on you too quick. Hopefully you find that disrupting move with the beat up and just can get a flinch on them and toxic them in the first hit. And then you're just gonna take them down from there. So this can be an incredibly frustrating set to go up against. And then there's going to be a lot of really strong Pokemon that just have insane stat spreads, like Ursaluna, that just completely ignore this and aren't going to care. But this could be good against just a lot of general Pokemon. I think that this is really utilizing the most of Fezandipiti's tech, so definitely try this one out. Now this next set is just a Toxic Stalling set. There's not a lot of Toxic Stallers right now, as a lot of Pokemon lost access to Toxic. There's still a lot of viability in being a Toxic Staller. Again, we're going to go Timid here with max speed, just to be as fast as we can, because if we can get up a heal before they start trying to do damage to us, that can be good. It can put us in a really good advantage. So if we just go for that Toxic right off the bat, stay healthy with Roost, we can be annoying with Air Slash and go for flinches, and then Venoshock is just to give us a little bit extra chip damage, just to deal with some Pokemon. You could run Black Sledge or Leftovers here. You probably want to do Leftovers, but if you already using Leftovers on another Pokemon, you can still take advantage of the Black Sledge. And then just go Terra Flying if you absolutely have to. If you go up against like Ground Threat, but you still want to be able to take them out. Like if you run up against like a Hippowdon, it still would be worth going Terra Flying even if you're running the Black Sledge. You'd probably be able to take that thing out and find some success there if you can get that Toxic off on it. Now this next set is actually taking advantage of the Technician ability, and we're going to run Swords Dance on this. So for the speed, we're going all out speed again. Hope we're refining those outspeeds. As a sweeper Pokemon, this really does not feel that great. It doesn't feel that great to be 99 speed and 91 attack. Even with the Sword Stance, you're not going to be one-hit KOing a lot of Pokemon with this. Dual Wing Bee is at least going to be a lot of damage with the Technician, especially if you go Terra Flying. And the reason I have Air Balloon here is you really want to find yourself in a matchup against a Pokemon that's going to try to use a ground-type move against you. Bait it out, force them to use a different move. You're not going to be taking too much damage just with your natural bulk. And then you're going to go Terra Flying and try to bait out that ground move again. If you can get 2 Sword Stances up, then you're finding yourself in a one-hit KO range against a lot of Pokemon, and that's going to feel really good. And then Play Rough and Thief just kind of round out your coverage. If we look at our type coverage here with that moveset, so if we go Flying, Fairy, and Dark, we see that we really don't have too many Pokemon we have to worry about. Big ones is just going to be Klefki and Tinkaton are really the only Pokemon we're going to run into. And I think usage on both these Pokemon is relatively low. So we have a very good overall move coverage with this moveset. But again, you're super, super low with that base 91 attack. That's not doing anything. And Scyther's back in the game, and it now has access to Dual Wing Bee and Bug Bite with the Technician. And just being 110 base attack with 105 speed, it's going to feel a lot better on a Pokemon like Scyther. It's still going to have a lot of natural bulk with the Eviolite combined with 80s. On the defense, you're going to be a lot bulkier than Fezandipiti, and just take way more advantage of this and still have some super good coverage with this moveset. So I think that like Scizor being back, or Scyther being back in the game with access to those moves just kind of null and voids this moveset altogether. But maybe you're just trying to find a fun way to run this Pokemon. And if you're running Technician, if you're really worried about running into like King Gambit, King Gambit's going to resist all these moves too, isn't he? This is an old type coverage calculator. So yeah, King Gambit's going to give this moveset a lot of problems. You could tech in Double Kick instead, and that just be a base 90 power move instead with the Technician. So that can be kind of a good option as well. So this next set here is just kind of like a Tailwind support set. And like I was talking about, it can be really good to pass on Tailwind to some Pokemon. And what you really want to do is you're going to lead with this, get a Tailwind in, and then pass it off to a Pokemon that can take a huge advantage of that speed. And I made a couple examples here that came to mind when I was just looking at this. So Hisuian Arcanine is going to hit like a truck. You have that 110 attack, but then you have Head Smash with Rockhead. That's going to be obliterating everything. And being able to run Life Orb on it just with that Tailwind speed means you're going to have options if you can't get that super effective Head Smash off, or you can't find the one-hit KO range with Flare Blitz. You're just going to have some more freedom rather than having to lock yourself in with the choice item with the Arcanine. And this could be really, really good partner with that Tailwind support. And then a really funny one, we'll talk about Ursaluna Blood Moon form because this Pokemon is absolutely insane. But normally you would not run this as a fast Pokemon. But at base 52 speed, you find enough speed that even running this modest, you can run it with a Life Orb. You're finding massive damage. Blood Moon's going to do 140 base power. That's hitting most things, even with a resisted hit, and you're going to do just terrifying damage to it. But you're going to find a lot of one-hit KOs just with the Life Orb with that amount of damage. It's just absolutely insane Pokemon. And you just have some coverage moves to round yourself out. Terra Blast, you can really do whatever typing you need to round out your coverage, because you still have some Pokemon that you have run into trouble with normal, ground, and fairy. Even with your ability, which is basically Scrappy, this Pokemon is just going to be insane. Now, something I want to take a note of too is under Tailwind. If you go Modest, if you double that, Tailwind just doubles your speed. Now you're 208 speed. You're faster than Timid Flutter Mane. If they're running specs, you're faster than Timid Flutter Mane. You're faster than Timid Iron Bundle. And that's not including them getting the booster energy. But I mean, that's absolutely insane. That just goes to show like how fast this Pokemon can get under Tailwind, and nobody's gonna expect that. So if you can catch an opponent off surprise, you can easily go 3-0 with Ursaluna and just take advantage of the game. So I think that's where having that Tailwind support is going to be really nice with Fezandipiti here. We'll go back into that moveset. And then the last two moves on that moveset, Acid Spray. The idea with Acid Spray with the Toxic Chain is you're going to be lowering down their special defense every little bit. You might force some switches. And if you can find the Toxic on them, now you can kind of whittle them down and just stay healthy with Roost, have a healing item on it, and that can be really, really frustrating. So you might find some KOs, just some longevity with Fezandipiti on top of that Tailwind support, which is really nice. The U-turn, I do have U-turn on there just in case you can find that Toxic with the Toxic Chain on Fezandipiti. Obviously, once you go Tailwind, you're going to be outspeeding most Pokemon as is. So that new Pokemon's going to have to be able to take that hit. But I think that's fine. And that's kind of why we have U-turn there. You can definitely tack in a different coverage move if you think that's going to be more helpful. You have a lot of really, really good options. So it's kind of really up to you how you want to run it. You have Taunt too, which could be awesome against anti-setup Pokemon. You know, taunt them with your naturally high speed, shut them down, then you can set up a Tailwind, and then go from there, and just hard switch. So this last moveset, again, it's just going to be Calm Mind. I think that's your best setup option, to be honest. You have the Roost, Calm Mind. You can't be Toxic with your Poison type beam, which is really good. Ghost is going to get rid of all your weaknesses and just make you relatively annoying to deal with. And then Moonblast, Shadow Ball is going to give you relatively good coverage. There's going to be some Pokemon you can't handle. So like, let's take a look at the coverage here really fast. I don't know why this is an old typing chart. Oh no, it's not. Weird. I don't know why King Gambit would be neutral. Oh, Fairy, Dark Fairy. That's why. I was really confused on that. So really, Pyroar you almost never see, and Giraffe Rye and singles you're never gonna see really either. So relatively good coverage there. It can be a good Calm Mind user, but I think there's just so many better Calm Mind users in the game right now. Clefable's back in the game, so I mean this is a good moveset. Don't get me wrong, but I just think there's better options. But if you're like in love with Fezandipiti or want to sweep with it, this is a really good option for you as well. I think this is gonna be a lot better than the Swords Dance Technician set. And then Toxic Chain's going to be nice too if you can find the Toxic on a stalling Pokemon, or if they're setting up too and you're going Calm Mind, they're going Calm Mind. That can be really good. If they're unaware Clefable and you can find the Toxic on them and just find a way to stay healthy and not get taken out with that special defense stat, that can be really good. If they're not running Sword Power, you're not taking that too much damage from Moonblast. So there is some potential here. There is something to be said about that. So I hope you really enjoyed that video. I hope this helps and have fun using Fezandipiti.